Good morning, students. In the today's session, we'll continue with our fifth unit, and the second topic of our application layer is email and MIME. I think you know everything about email, but the background, how it is going to process, we'll learn in the today's session. What is email? It is one of the most popular internet services. Okay. And what are the main purpose? How to for the transmission of text, audio, video, we'll use the email. Okay. And now, whenever we are working with the email, mainly we are having 4 scenarios. Okay. In the today's session, we'll learn about each and every scenario of what is the purpose of email and how the data transmission is going to be done. We'll learn in the today's session. Okay. Now, in the first session, what is happening? Let me continue the topic with one small example. Here we have a data communication between the two systems, that is Alice and Bob. Okay. In the first scenario, what is happens? Here, like whenever if we have a data transmission, that means the email are the user application programs on the same system. Okay. And in the first scenario, let us take with the example with the sender and receiver of the email. Okay. These are all of the application programs. Now, this administrator has created one mailbox. Okay. The administrator has created one mailbox for each user where the received messages are stored. For each and every user, the administrator is going to maintain one separate mailbox. Okay, the mailbox is part of the local hardware and it is a special file with permission restrictions. Only the owner of the mailbox has access to it. Okay, and here this is the example for the first scenario. Okay, and in the next scenario, see here in the first scenario where here, for example, we have this Alice and Bob, or they have the data transmission. Okay, and when a user Alice needs to send a message to Bob, and Alice is going to run the user agent program, okay, to prepare the message and store it to the Bob's mailbox. Okay, now the message has the sender and the recipient mailboxes. Okay, Bob can retrieve the message. Bob can retrieve and read the content of his mailbox using the user agent. Okay, this is the purpose which happens with the first scenario. Now, in the next scenario, in the second scenario, what we are going to do here, like in the previously, what happens? We have Bob and Alice works with the same system. Just see here. Here for Bob, one mailbox will be there, as well as for Alice, another mailbox will be there. But now, whenever we are working with the second scenario, what happens here? In the second scenario, the sender and receiver of the email of the application programs which are working on the different systems. Here, the previous mail, we have only one system will be there. But here in the second scenario, we have two separate systems will be there. One is the client system and the another one is the server system. There we have the client and server system will be there. Okay. And there also we have the user agents, and here also we have the user agents as well as the message transfer agents will be there. Okay. In the second scenario, how the data will be transmitted, we'll learn here. Now see here, whenever you are working with the first scenario, Alice is going to keep the messages in the system where the Bob can open their mailbox. Okay. And here in the second scenario, what is happening? Alice needs to use a user program to send message to the mail server of his own. Okay. And the mail server at Alice sites uses a queue to store the messages waiting to be sent. Now the Bob also needs a user agent program to retrieve the messages stored in the mailbox of the system at his site. Okay. And now the message needs to be sent through the internet from Alice to the Bob site. Here the two message transfer agents are needed. Okay. There, whenever you are working with the first scenario, we do not have this message transfer agents. Only the user agents will be there. But whenever if we are working with the second scenario, the most of the client and server programs on the internet, the server needs to run all the time because it does not know when a click will ask for a connection. Okay, the client to be alerted by the system when there is a message is queued. Now here, like in the second scenario, it was happened like the client and server, like the Bob and Alice is going to transmit the data with the two different systems with the help of message transfer agents. Now, whenever you are working with the third scenario, in the third scenario, we are little bit development will be. Okay. And in the third scenario, we have the client system separately, server system separately. Between the client and server system, we may work within the organization. That means within the building or within a particular only between the only two systems. Okay. Here, whenever you are working with the third scenario, in the first scenario, we have only one system. In the second scenario, we have the client system and server system. But here we have started working with the internet with the help of the LAN as well as the WAN. Okay. That is the little more development between the from the first level to the third level. Okay. Now, in the second scenario, we have only two client and server system will be there. But here we have the internet service is also there. And we are working with the LAN service within the organization or within the building. We'll have the data transmission. But how it is going to be done, we'll continue in the continuous session. Now, here in the third scenario, what is happening? The Bob is directly connected to his system. Alice is separated from the system. Now, Alice is connected to the mail server via the WAN or LAN. Here, Alice is work as a client. Okay. Now, in an organization that uses one mail server for handling the email mails, all users need to send their messages to the mail server. At the client side or at the Alice side, they are going to send all the messages to the server. Okay. And the user agent of the Alice, it prepares the message and sends the messages to the LAN or WAN. Whenever the Alice message to send, Alice calls the user agent and user agents call the MTA client. Now this MTA client is going to establish a connection with the MTA server, okay, on the system. Now see here, the system at Alice side queues all the messages. Okay, it then uses the MTA client to send the messages by the system. Now the Bob uses his user agent to retrieve the messages and read it. Now here, this MTA, we need two MTA client as well as one MTA server program we need. Okay. Here, two MTA client and one MTA server program will be there. Otherwise, we have the two MTA client and two MTA server also can be done. Whenever we are working with the fourth scenario, the complete development will have. Okay. Here in the first generation, the first scenario, we have only one system with a client and server, Bob and Alice. Okay. The second scenario, we have one for the client, one for the server. In the third scenario, we have two client and we have two server. That means it will be worked within the local area network. But in the next step here, it is a most common scenario. Both Alice and Bob, both are connected to their mail server. Okay. Here in the previous scenario, only the client is going to connect it to the mail server. Once the client, all the clients are going to send the messages to the mail server. From there, the mail server is going to connect to the WAN and it is going to the local area and it is going to send the message. But now, whenever we are working with the fourth scenario, both the client and server, or we can say Alice and Bob. Okay, Alice and Bob, both can be connected to the server. Okay, by a WAN or LAN. Okay, here. Now, see here, what is happening here? After the message has arrived at Bob's mail server, the Bob needs to retrieve it. New Bob needs another set of client and server agents called message access agents. Okay, and the client send a request to the message access agent server and request the transfer of the messages. Okay, this is a new development of the email data transmission. Okay, now here, now we'll see the architecture of email. I'll just repeat what is happened in the first level, second scenario, and third scenario, and fourth scenario. Whenever we are working with the email, the first is we have the four scenarios of the level. Okay. And here in this, the first scenario, we have only one system is connected with Alice and Bob. That means I can say client, two users. Okay. User one and user two. Whenever if we have the second scenario, we have the two client server system will be separate. Okay. But we have only one-to-one communication itself. But whenever we are working with the third scenario, the local area, the client is only connected to the local area network. Okay. But whenever we are working with the fourth scenario, both the client and server, that means user one and user two, both the users can connect it to the wide area network. Now we'll continue with the architecture of IME. Okay, there are three major components in the architecture. Here already we have learned user agent, message transfer agent, and message access agent. What is a user agent? This user agent is going to provide the services to the user to make the use of processor. Like here, whenever if we have a transmission of data between the sender and receiver, the first level is going to be done with by the user agents. Next, here what are the services which are provided by the user agent? Here, composing messages. The user agent helps the user to compose the email message to be sent. Okay, and most of the user agents provide a template on the screen to be filled. Okay, now here for the user agent, the other following fields are we have the reading of messages, we have a replying to the messages, as well as we have forwarded to the messages. Okay, and next here, there are two different types of user agent types. One is a command-driven user agent will be there, and GUI-based user agent will be there. Whenever we are working with a command-driven user agent, here these user agents present an underlying user agents in service. There are two types of user agents. We have one user agent is a command-driven user agent. Another one is the GUI-based user. What is a command-driven user agent? Here, the user agents, which is going to present as the underlying in servers. Okay, and it normally accepts only one command character. Okay, and whenever if we have this GUI-based user agent, they are going to work with the whenever if we want to the user wants to interact with the software by using both the keyboard and mouse, then we have this GUI based. Okay, and next here the best example for the GUI based is now we are using this Microsoft Outlook as well as Nest. Okay, next what is meant by with the continuation of our email system, we'll continue with the multi-purpose internet mail extension. Okay, what is this MIME? It is a supplementary protocol that allows the non-ASCII data to be sent to email. Okay, and for example, French, German, Hebrew, Russian, all these are the non-ASCII characters. Okay, MIME transform all non-ASCII data at the sender side. Okay, then it is going to deliver to the client side. Okay, and the messages at the receiving side is transformed back to the original data. And whenever we are working with the MIME, we have 5 main sections. Okay, 5 header sections will be there. Those 5 are MIME version, as well as the content type, as well as the content transfer encoding, and next content ID and the content description. What is MIME version? The header defines the version of MIME used. The current version of the MIME is 1.5. What is a content type? Here, the content type header defines the type of data used in the body of the message. Depending on the subtype of the header, may contain the other parameters. And the MIME allows 7 different types of data, like text, multi-part, message, image, video, audio, application, everything it is going to support. And what is mean by this content transfer encoding? This header defines a method used to encode the messages into ones and zeros. Okay, and the content ID header uniquely identifies the whole message in a multiple message environment. Okay, and now here in this we have these different types of user. We'll have the ASCII transmission, non-ASCII transmission of data will be there. We'll continue in the next session with the next topic. Have a nice day.